wonderful to be here once again. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Eric Soledisma. I'm also a student from Washington Adventist. And today we're going to talk about a topic that is really interesting for me, and hope you can enjoy it as much as I did while preparing this. And it's called Every Minute Counts. How many of you agree that every minute counts? Every single day that we wake up and we see a new light is really a blessing, a new opportunity that we have. And before we open the Word of God, let's ask the Lord to speak to us. Let's bow our heads and let us pray. Dear Father in heaven, we just want to say, speak to us. Lord, speak to our hearts that we may be able to listen and we may be able to apply the principles that we learned from your word. We ask this in the name of Jesus, we prayed. Amen. So one day, there was an Englishman. He was walking in the desert of the Middle East. And while he was walking, he found himself to a big tree right next to a small lake in the desert. And there was a man sitting down. He seemed a little bit concerned. And when the Englishman arrived, he asked the man, what's happening? This man that was sitting down was actually one of the wealthiest commercial individuals from the Middle East. But he seemed concerned. He seemed a little bit sad. And this traveler asked him, hey, what is happening? And he said, well, what happened is I am a commercial. I'm dealing with all the kinds of jewelries that we find it, we refine it, and then we sell it. But I had one special, very special one that I lost. And then this gentleman asked him, hey, but can't you just go and make another one just like it? Can't you just go and ask the manufacturer to make you a new one just like the one you lost? And this wealthy man said, but this one was very, very special. And this one cannot be replaced because this one is as large as a 24-inch. That's pretty big. And then it had 24 jewels around it. And then in the middle, it had another 60 smaller ones in it. And then it says, yes, that sounds very special. But can you make another one just like it? He asked again. And he said, no, you cannot make another one. Because the jewel that I just lost was a whole entire day. And a time or a day that's been lost could never be recovered. So the question is, how precious or how valuable is time for you today? Is it time something that has just been dedicated for us and we can use as much as we want or however we like to do it? Is there something that God requires of each of us of our time? Is He the owner of the time, or are we the owner of our own time? It is interesting to think about these questions because in the book of the message of the great master in the page 321, written by Sister White, it says that our time is part of God's property. And the use of it, that we find obligations to use it properly for His glory. None other talent that's given to us requires as much as the use of our time. So God has been giving us so many different blessings. And out of all these different talents that the Bible talks about, the time is one of them. Now the question is there, since last week we talked about getting prepared for the second coming of Jesus. In the process of that means that we need to be sanctified. The word sanctification is a process that will happen over time. Over a period of how long? It will take our entire lives. Yes. It is a lifetime process. Now, a gentleman called L. Brinkley says that the only difference, or the main difference, between the men that are obedient and the men that are disobedient, or the wealthy and the poor, or the ones that will be saved or the ones that will be condemned, it is not generally about where they come from, but it's about as much as how they use their time. So the question is, what is time? And how can we use that? What is time? Can we touch time? Can we see time? We can definitely measure time, but we don't know what color is it. We don't know if it's heavy. Do we know how much we can carry around with us? Is there something that we can say, all right, I'm going to put it on my backpack and I'm going to take extra time with me, so just in case I got traffic, I can use that time? No, fortunately, that's not how it works. So since it doesn't have time, it doesn't have measurement, physical, we cannot see it, we cannot touch it. But the dictionary defines it as a period where an action or a process happens. Now the question is, we always hear the phrase that says, yes, but I don't have time. I am so busy that I don't have time for that. You're inviting me to go to church or to go to Bible study or to do this and that and that. So can you tell me, are people have more time than others? No? Then why do we hear that phrase that people say, yeah, I don't have time? And other people say, yeah, I don't know what to do with my time. Now here's the question. Well, not a question. There was a professor at the university and asked the students, as for a volunteer, and he placed a task. He put a table and then he gave a yard. He placed rocks, sand, water, and little pebbles. And then he asked a volunteer to come up and place all those items inside of the yard. So a volunteer raised his hand, the student came up, he went to the table and started filling the yard. He started pouring water. Then he placed the sand on top. Then he placed the petals. By the moment he was already placing the petals, he still needed to put some rocks in it. But his yard was almost filled. And he couldn't add more items to it. Now, another student came by and tried to do similar thing. But not everything that was given by the professor could fit in the yard. So the student said, well, teacher, professor, this assignment is not a good assignment because you cannot fit all these things in this yard. And the professor peacefully just came to the table and he started doing the following thing. So he opened the yard, that was an empty one, and he started placing the bigger rocks first. He placed all the rocks in the yard first. Then he placed the sand around it. Then he poured the little petals on top. And then he poured the water last. By the time he had finished, everything was inside of the jar with nothing spilled. So what is the lesson here? The professor replied. He said, all of us are given 24 hours in a day. All of us. And we have so many different things that we do with that day. When we place the things that are less valuable or less prioritized to do them first, then you might run out of time and forget to do the really things that really matter in your day. But if you start by doing the things that really matter and prioritize them first, then everything else will fall in place. So the same question comes with us in our preparation with the Christian walk. How are we using our time? Are we prioritizing the things that will help us grow spiritually, or are we prioritize all the things that just give us entertainment? Every single day we are given 24 hours. No one has more, no one has less. But the difference is how that is being used. So every individual here has a different job, has a different lifestyle, but we all have 24 hours. So how can we use it? And what should be the priority in our lives? Will determine how we'll choose the decisions to do our daily things. There are two mainly centers that we can choose from. Me or God? What is the center of my decisions every day? Am I the priority, or is it God in my life? Come with me to the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 24. Matthew 6:24. It's a text that is commonly used and is important. It was Jesus that was speaking to the crowd at this moment when he said on verse 24, "No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Yet cannot serve God and Mammon." Who is Mammon? Excuse me? And what does it mean? What does that mean? This name was a name given to one of the gods that was prioritizing on money. I heard many people say, "Hurry up, time is money. Come on, we got to get this done, so we got to get paid. No, I can't go to family camp because I have work to do. No, I'm not going to do such a thing because I need to do this that will actually benefit me." Now the question is the real meaning of time money? Are the decisions being taken and being placed because of the benefit of ourselves, so we can get paid or we can get the money and we can continue with our lives? I remember reading the what's the name? The final words of this famous owner of Apple that passed away, Steve Jobs. And he said that there were so many things in his life that he did in order to be where he was, but that he could change all of it just to spend more time with his family. When we value time or limit it just to have the meaning of money, just the meaning of working, just the meaning of achieving something, we are actually underselling the value of time. And we are limited to just that. But the meaning of time loses if we limit it just to that definition. Now the question is, we all have time. The discussion is, we all have time. The use of our time, it's either our salvation or our cursed. It's either being generous or being egocentric. It means either I share or I don't. One of the statistics that the Institute Gallup said is that it was counting of an American citizen on an average of 75 years of life. And they divided their life in these categories. It says that an individual spends 26 years, 25 days, and 14 hours sleeping, getting dressed, and getting undressed. Now, how much do they spend working? It says an average of 21 years. Many other people actually do a lot more than that. But 21 years, 25 days, and 14 hours. Eating and drinking, 5 years, 346 days, and 5 hours. Now this is interesting. Waiting in line. How long do you guys wait in line throughout your lives? It says that it spends an average of 5 years, 302 days, and 16 hours. Can you see yourself standing in line that long? And then going in trips, just traveling, from work to house or actually going outside. This says the average is 3 years, 270 days, 23 hours, and 18 minutes. And that includes me because I had to travel all the way from Newport News to get here. So my time might accumulate more. And then this one is really interesting. I don't know if you are counting or you're measuring how many times you're blowing your nose. It's just that on average, a person spends 13 days, 8 hours, and 28 minutes blowing their nose. But it's kind of depressing, but at the same time, I know we can do better. It says, how much time do we spend smiling or laughing? It should be a lot, but it says there's only an average of 1 day and 22 minutes. So, according to these statistics, there's more time standing in line. There's more time blowing their nose than smiling or laughing. How do we use our time? Now, there's 3 main principles that I like to emphasize today. The first principle of time is that it is a unit of time that is being created every single day, meaning the rotation of the earth. So once the earth rotates once, we have 1 day. Now, when we have 7 consecutive days, that becomes 1 week. And after the whole moon makes a whole rotation, that is constitute a whole month. And then when the earth actually makes the translations around the sun, we have 1 year. Now, what does the book Exodus chapter 20 says? Exodus chapter 20, verse 8 to 11. What does that say? Can somebody share it with me? What does that say? Mm-hmm. Yes? Uh-huh. 20, verse 8 to 11. Uh-huh. Yes? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. 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 Uh-huh. Amen. It's just a beautiful Seventh-day Adventist church right here. It knows their burst. Excellent. I love that. Now, if God is being so specific about this Sabbath and how special that date is, all of us receive 1 week of 160 hours. And God is only reserving 24. So if God is asking for 1/7 of our week, how special should that week is? That means that the 7th day is not just like any other day. Let me say that again. The 7th day is not just like any other day. The 7th day is a special day. God is dedicating his whole entire time, and I use the word time, although God is not limited as we are to time, but he stops of doing everything that he does that we cannot even comprehend on how much it requires for him to take care of all of 8 billion of people, as our sister said, in the world, without even counting the rest of the planets or the Milky Way or the sun to stay bright as it is every single day so we can wake up and see the sunlight. The creator of heaven and earth, the one that loves us so much that he created us out of his own hands, is saying, I want to spend 24 hours with you. And although many people say, yes, but I'm just going to go see God at church on Saturday morning. And how long does the service last? Does it last 24 hours? Are we spending 24 hours with God? Are we dedicating that time for him? And God reminds us, Exodus chapter 20, remember the Sabbath. And that's why God is so loving, so all-knowing. And he knew that the things and the affairs of the world and affairs of our life will take our time and dedicating on all the things that he had to use the word remember. Sometimes we need to be reminded of the priorities of our lives. And that's why God says, remember. So we established that 7th day is not mine, but it's God's. So I have 6 days from Sunday all the way to Friday, sunset, and then Saturday sunset. Now let's go to the second principle. So in 6 days, we do all the things that we like and the things that are necessary for our lives. But are those days really ours? Or are we stewards of those days? So when it comes to stewardships, it means that it does not belong to me, but I am actually taking care of it for the honor. So with that principle, there's two main things that should be included, or I suggest that should be included on our daily lives, which will be our personal devotional and our family devotional. The time that we will dedicate and encourage our family members to seek God, to remember God, to place the priorities of life where this should be priority. And the things that are not as prioritized can be placed afterwards. So with that said, we can remember that we are called as stewards. The things that we do, the morning routine or the evening, should always remember the honor of the day. So with that recommendation, we can see that we have a whole week, Saturday for God, and then 6 days where we will spend a portion of our day dedicated to God as well, and the rest for us. Now, the third principle I'd like to emphasize is that God expects that every day we can spend time to bless someone. God is giving us the means. He is blessing us with all the different things we have. But He is also wanting that we can follow His example. Just like He said in the book of John, chapter 9:4, that everything that He did and all the actions that He did for His Father's will, He was doing it because He was fulfilling His Father's will. Now, the things that we do, if God is the center of it, will also accomplish His will. Are you guys agreeing with me? So if I am the center of my life, then I will do the things that fulfill my desires. But if God is the center of my life, then I will do the things that will fulfill His desires. Now, to conclude, time is slow for the ones that wait. The time is quick for the ones that are afraid. It is very long for the people that suffer, but it's very short for the ones that are enjoying. But those who love, there is no time. According to Henry Van Dyke. So the question of today is, how much are we valuing our time? How are we dedicating our time? The Bible text that we read says that we need to take advantage of our time because the days are evil. So, yes, they are evil. So if we realize that we are not different from other people in concern to time, if we all have the same amount of time, but it's your decision on how you spend it. A day that gets lost will never recover. So how are you dedicating your time today to help you grow, to help you succeed, to help you connect, to help you remember someone that they are blessed because they have a precious gift that God has given them. Remind someone, bless someone. And don't forget that God is gifting us so we can bless someone else. God bless you.